Hi, my name is Dr. Julia Finch. I'm currently the Interim Director of the Kentucky Folk Art Center here in Morehead, Kentucky. And I want to welcome you to the first installment of our Collections Conversations, where we're going to take a brief but in-depth look at one of the artists in our collection of Kentucky folk artists. So I want to introduce you to the artist Mark Anthony Mulligan. And Mark Anthony Mulligan is what we might call a contemporary folk artist. When we use the term folk artist, we mean that he is an untrained artist, and contemporary because he is still living. He lives in Louisville. I wanted to feature him today as we head into Black History Month as one of the African American artists in our collection, and to think a little bit about how his work resonates with older traditions of folk art. Mark Anthony Mulligan, we know, grew up in the West Louisville neighborhood, which is also known as Rubbertown. It's a really industrial center of town. It's got oil refineries, it's got water treatment facility. So he grew up in a space without a lot of green foliage, without the mountain landscape backdrop that we might expect to see here at a folk art center in eastern Kentucky. Instead, what we're seeing is an urban landscape. So you can see really clearly here those signs that are connected to industry. For example, Mobil Gas, Shell Gas, Sunoco, Exxon, Ashland. So he's referencing that industrial economy of the neighborhood where he grew up. But then you see some places that are maybe a little more intimate, a little more familiar. You see the Pizza Boy over here, you see a Winn-Dixie, you see various, the Xavier Manor Mall, Mary Yates Furniture. And so we have these other places that maybe are a place that Mark Anthony Mulligan connected to in a more intimate way. One of the things I like to point out about his work visually and from a formal perspective is that we always seem to be getting this aerial view. It's kind of like we're looking in and down on the neighborhood. We're not getting the perspective that he necessarily has walking through on foot, and we know that he's not, hovering above the neighborhood somewhere. So that's another clue to us that this is an imagined amalgamation of a lot of different memories from his childhood and from his life growing up on the streets of Louisville. One thing I want to point out with Mulligan's work is the way that he creates a sense of motion through the composition, movement, a pathway that we might take. We might start here, maybe at Waxfoot Drive, where St. Bell's Chapel is, and then we're guided up to Chewing Gum Alley. We might then come over here and pick up Copperhead Road, which turns into Copperhead Court over here. So I wanted you to have a chance to maybe let your eyes wander through this pathway that he's created for us. What do you see? Where is your path? What emerges for you as points of interest? Where do you want to go on his walking tour of the neighborhoods of Louisville? And then finally over here, I just wanted to point out that he's incorporated his signature. Often in the Folk Art Center, we have artists who are not so concerned with the traditions of fine art and museums, and so they don't necessarily sign their work or date their work. But here, Mark Anthony Mulligan gives us a very specific description of the work and the process. He says, by Mark Anthony Mulligan, acrylic paint with markers, 2 hours and 34 minutes. So he gives us the time frame for the production of the work, June 29th, 1994, and he incorporates the title within the work. So he says the title is Lakeside Valley, and that of course is the title of the entire composition. So as someone who, for myself, as someone who was trained in the kind of formal tradition of how do we analyze a work of art, folk art sometimes lies a little bit outside of that, but there are ways that we can apply all of the lessons of formal analysis to this work, and ways that we can learn so much from the richness of this work in the way that it communicates a cultural identity that Mark Mulligan wants to share with us. For more information on Mark Anthony Mulligan's work, You can check out a 2005 catalog that accompanied an exhibition that was held at Kentucky Folk Art Center. The title of the catalog is You Must Withstand the Wind, Transformation of the Urban Landscape by Mark Anthony Mulligan. And this is accessible via Morehead State University's ScholarWorks database.